I never thought this day would come, not in a million years. I'm 30 now, and I'm finally in a position to enjoy the success I've worked so hard for. But that doesn't change the fact that 8 years ago, my parents kicked me out of their house over something I didn't do, something that was a lie, an ugly lie told by my sister, and they believed it without a second thought. It's been a long road since then, and looking back, it's almost hard to believe how everything went down. My name's Alex, by the way, and I've always had a knack for business. Not that my parents noticed. Growing up, it was always my older sister, Emma, who had their attention. She was the golden child, the one they could count on to make something of herself. Meanwhile, I was constantly overlooked, ignored, or told I was too sensitive. Emma and I were never close. In fact, she was always jealous of me. The older sibling rivalry, I guess. But it went beyond that. Emma was a narcissist in every sense of the word. She'd do whatever it took to make herself look good, even if it meant stepping on me or lying about me. Our parents ate it up. They'd always praise her for her accomplishments, even when they were small, and berate me for things I never did. I wasn't allowed to show any signs of weakness or vulnerability. Those were signs of failure in their eyes. They had this image of the perfect family, and any imperfection was a threat to that image. But the turning point came when I was 22. At that point, I was just starting out in the business world. I wasn't rich by any means, but I had a clear vision of what I wanted to achieve. I had a side hustle going, working nights after a regular job, trying to build something for myself. It wasn't glamorous, but it was a start. Emma, on the other hand, was a mess. She had dropped out of college, bounced between several dead-end jobs, and was living in the same house my parents had bought her. They paid for everything, her car, her rent, her bills, her life, and she still complained about it. At the time, I was living with my parents, mostly to save money and work on my business without the pressure of a rent payment hanging over my head. I wasn't a burden. I paid my own way for everything I could. But Emma didn't see it that way. She hated the idea of me getting any attention, any kind of praise. So, she started to spread rumors. I still remember the night it all blew up. I was working late, like I usually did, and my parents were hosting a dinner at the house. I wasn't part of the family fun atmosphere, but that was fine with me. I had my plans, and they didn't involve awkward small talk. But I came out of my room to grab a snack from the kitchen and overheard my name in a conversation between Emma and my mom. "I don't know why we keep letting him stay here," Emma was saying. Her voice was dripping with that venomous jealousy. "He's doing nothing with his life, and all he does is sit in that room, playing on his stupid computer all day. I bet he's just waiting for you to die so he can take everything." I froze. I wasn't the type to eavesdrop, but I couldn't help myself. What was she talking about? And then, Emma continued, "I wouldn't be surprised if he's been stealing from you, too. He's probably taking money when you're not looking. I saw him take cash from your wallet once, and I didn't want to say anything because I thought you'd think I was being dramatic. But I think it's time you know. He's taking your money." My heart dropped. I stood there, completely still, as the words sank in. She was accusing me of something I didn't do. I had never stolen from my parents. I was working hard, building something for myself. I had pride in what I was doing. But Emma? She had always been the manipulative one. She had no problem lying to get her way. But that wasn't the worst part. No, the worst part was that my mom, my own mother, didn't question it. She didn't defend me. Instead, she said, "I knew something was off. I've been feeling like he's just using us. Maybe you're right." I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. How could they believe her over me? Why would they choose to believe the person who had always been jealous of me? I knew they favored Emma, but this was too much. And the worst part was that I couldn't even explain myself. It was her word against mine, and I knew I'd never win. The next day, everything came to a head. I came downstairs to find my parents standing in the living room, looking at me with that cold, detached expression they always wore when they were about to say something big. "Alex," my dad started, his voice stern, "we need to talk." I felt a knot form in my stomach, but I tried to stay calm. "What's going on?" "We've been talking," my mom said, "and we've come to a decision. We don't think you should stay here anymore." My mind went blank. I couldn't process what I was hearing. "What do you mean?" "You're an adult now, Alex," my dad continued, crossing his arms. "You need to take responsibility for yourself. You're not going anywhere with your life, and we can't keep supporting you. It's time for you to leave." I stood there, stunned. My heart raced, but I couldn't speak. I had been living under their roof, yes, but I wasn't a burden. I worked hard. I was building something for myself, and now they were tossing me out like I was a problem. I looked at Emma, standing in the corner with a smug look on her face. She didn't say anything, but I knew she was the one who had pushed this. She had orchestrated this whole thing. "Mom, Dad, this is insane," I said, my voice shaking. "You're going to believe her? She's lying. I haven't stolen anything from you. I've been working my ass off to make something of myself." But they wouldn't listen. They didn't care. "Enough," my dad said, his voice hard. "You're out. Pack your things and leave." I stood there for a moment, just staring at them. It was like everything I had worked for, everything I had been trying to build, was being ripped away in an instant. I had nothing. No support. No place to go. I left the house that day, feeling more alone than I ever had in my life. But I also made a vow to myself. I would show them. I would show them what I was capable of. I would prove them wrong. And when I became successful, I would make them regret every single thing they did. After I was kicked out, I hit rock bottom. I had nowhere to go, no safety net, and no support system. But I wasn't about to let that break me. I had always been determined, and now, with nothing left to lose, I pushed myself harder than ever. I crashed at a friend's apartment for a few months, working on my business idea every free moment I had. It was a mix of late nights, long weekends, and countless failures. But something clicked one day. I had been building an online business, selling a niche product that I knew had potential. It wasn't glamorous at first. It was small, barely scraping by, but I kept refining it. I used the money I earned from side gigs to reinvest in the business, and slowly, things started to grow. I remember the exact moment I saw the first sign that I might actually be onto something. One of my social media ads went viral, and sales exploded overnight. The product was something people didn't realize they needed until they saw it, and suddenly, I had more orders than I could handle. I had to hire a few people to help with the influx of business, and that was the turning point. I made the right connections, worked with the right people, and built a brand that resonated with consumers. It wasn't just a fluke. It was the result of years of hard work, of persevering when everyone, including my parents, had written me off. By the time I was 26, my business had hit a major milestone. I was making 6 figures a year. The company was growing rapidly, and I was living in a nice apartment, free from the toxic environment of my parents' house. I had built something of my own. Around this time, I reconnected with a few old friends who were more than happy to support me. They had always believed in me, and I made sure to surround myself with people who lifted me up, rather than tearing me down. I kept working day in and day out, putting in the hours to keep expanding, refining, and diversifying my business. By the time I hit 30, I had reached a level of success I couldn't have even dreamed of when I was kicked out. I had multiple streams of income, a well-established brand, and enough savings to do whatever I wanted. I bought my first house, invested in stocks, and started thinking about ways to help others succeed as I had. It felt incredible to see my name on the top of a few industry lists, to be invited to speak at conferences, and to know I was finally in control of my own future. But none of that would have happened if my parents hadn't pushed me out. The bitterness, the resentment, it all fueled me to get to this point. Every time I thought of them, of how they had discarded me, it pushed me further. I used their rejection as the fuel for my fire. I had something to prove, not just to them, but to myself. But here's where things took a turn. As my success grew, so did the attempts by my parents to reach out. It started small texts and calls asking how I was doing. At first, I ignored them. They never apologized for what they did, and I had no intention of letting them back into my life without some real accountability. But then they started showing up at my business events, at conferences, and even at my house. My mother sent me flowers on my birthday. My dad sent me an email saying how proud they were of my accomplishments. It felt suffocating. They wanted to be part of my success, but they didn't want to admit how they had wronged me. They didn't even acknowledge the years they had thrown me away. And then it all came to a head. I was attending a networking event when I turned a corner and saw both of them standing there. They were smiling, pretending everything was normal, but I could see the desperation in their eyes. They wanted me to forgive them. They wanted to pretend like none of it had ever happened. They approached me cautiously, my dad offering a handshake, my mom smiling awkwardly. "Alex, it's so good to see you," my dad said. "We've been following your success. We're really proud of you." I stood there for a moment, trying to keep my cool. "Really?" I asked, keeping my voice even. "Proud of me now, after everything?" My mom stepped forward. "Alex, we've made mistakes, but we want to make amends. We want to be part of your life again." I stared at them. Part of me wanted to snap, to tell them exactly how I felt, to unload all the anger and hurt that had been building up inside of me. But I knew I had to be strategic. I had something bigger planned. You want to make amends? I asked, letting the words hang in the air. You want to be part of my life again? Of course, my mom said quickly. We've always loved you, Alex. We just, no. I cut her off, holding up my hand. You haven't always loved me. You kicked me out of the house because you chose to believe a lie my sister told. A lie that ruined my life for years. You don't get to just waltz back in now that I've made something of myself. The silence between us was thick. I could see the guilt creeping into their faces, but they still wouldn't admit it. They wouldn't admit they had been wrong. They just wanted to come back into my life because they could see how much I had accomplished. My dad tried to deflect, his voice shaky. We're sorry, Alex. We were just trying to do what was best for you, but we can see now best for me. I interrupted. You threw me out because of a lie my sister told about me. And you never even questioned it. You believed her over your own son. You didn't care about what I was going through. Do you know what it felt like to have no one on my side? To be left alone with nowhere to go? I had to fight for every single thing I have now. And you don't get to just show up and act like everything is fine. Not without acknowledging what you did. I could see it now, their guilt, their shame. But it wasn't enough. Not yet. My mom opened her mouth to speak, but I wasn't done. And I'm not going to forget it. So don't think this is some kind of happy family reunion. If you want to make amends, you'll have to do a lot more than just show up at my events and say we're proud of you. You're not getting back into my life just like that. Not without consequences. As I stood there, the weight of the words I had just spoken hanging in the air between us, my parents shifted uncomfortably. Their smiles faltered, and for the first time in years, I saw genuine remorse in their eyes. But I wasn't ready to let them off the hook. Not yet. My mom's eyes welled up with tears, but I refused to give her any sympathy. After everything they had done, after the years of silence and distance they forced on me, I wasn't about to feel sorry for them. They had broken my trust, and no amount of tears could fix that. I know you're hurt, Alex, my mom said, her voice trembling. We made a mistake. I see that now. I just want to make it right. You can't make it right, I snapped, cutting her off. Not just like that. You can't erase the last 8 years of my life. You can't pretend you didn't turn your back on me when I needed you most. You don't get to waltz back in and expect everything to be okay because I've succeeded. You don't get to rewrite history. My dad looked like he was about to say something, but I wasn't having it. No, you don't get to say anything else. You can apologize all you want, but you'll never truly understand what you did. You don't get to decide when I'm ready to forgive you. That's not how this works. For a moment, they both stood there, looking defeated. But I wasn't done. There was still one thing I needed to do. You want to make amends, right? I asked, my voice cold. You want to prove to me that you're truly sorry? Then I'll give you a chance. A real chance. But not until you've shown me that you understand what you did. And here's how you'll do that. My parents exchanged a nervous glance. My dad opened his mouth to speak, but I raised my hand again, signaling for him to be quiet. First, you're going to publicly apologize to me. I want a full, sincere apology, not some vague, half-hearted message. You're going to admit to everyone what you did to me. How you believed a lie over your own son and turned your back on me when I needed you most. My mom's face turned pale. Alex, I don't know if you don't get to decide what's too much, I interrupted. I've had to live with the consequences of your actions for years. If you want to even begin to make things right, it starts with owning up to what you did. You'll tell the world the truth about what happened. And not just that. You'll apologize to my friends, to the people who stood by me when you abandoned me. You'll apologize to everyone who's been there for me in ways you never were. There was a long, uncomfortable silence. I could see the hesitation in their eyes, the reluctance to fully admit how wrong they had been. But they knew I was serious. I wasn't going to let them back into my life without proving they had changed. You want to know what else? I continued, my voice getting colder with each word. You'll also take full responsibility for what happened with my sister. You'll admit that she was the one who lied and that you let her do it. That you let her tear our family apart. You'll tell everyone the truth, not just about me, but about how she ruined my life. How she manipulated you into believing that I was the bad guy. My parents flinched at the mention of my sister, and I could see them both exchange a look, but I wasn't done yet. After you do that, I said, then, and only then, will I even consider allowing you back into my life. But don't expect me to just forget everything. You'll have to prove to me that you're not just trying to take advantage of my success. You'll have to show me that you truly understand how deep the wound goes. I could see the struggle on their faces. They were torn, unsure whether to fight back or to comply with my demands. But at that moment, I wasn't interested in what they thought. I had the upper hand, and I wasn't going to let go of it. Finally, my dad spoke, his voice low and hesitant. Alex, we didn't know. We thought you were just going down a bad path. We didn't see how much you were hurting. I shook my head. You didn't see because you didn't care. You never cared enough to ask the right questions. You never cared enough to find out the truth. And that's something I'm never going to forget. My mom stepped forward again, her hands trembling. Please, Alex. We know we made a mistake. We're so sorry. We want to make it right. Please, don't shut us out forever. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my composure. I could feel the rage building inside of me again, but I knew I had to stay calm. This wasn't about winning in the moment. This was about making them understand the consequences of their actions. You want to make it right? I said, leaning in closer. Then prove it. Prove that you can take responsibility for what you did. Until then, don't expect me to let you back into my life. I'm not some charity case you can just use when it's convenient for you. I'm not going to let you erase the past. You'll have to live with it. With that, I turned and walked away, leaving my parents standing there in stunned silence. I could hear them calling my name, but I didn't look back. I couldn't. As I left the event, I felt a strange mixture of satisfaction and anger. Part of me felt like I had won, like I had finally stood up for myself after all these years. But another part of me was still angry. Angry that they thought they could just waltz back in after all the damage they'd caused. I wasn't ready to forgive them. Not yet. But I was ready to make them work for it. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. I didn't hear from my parents for a couple of days after that confrontation. I think they were both shocked and humiliated by the demands I'd made. I knew they'd try to avoid taking responsibility, but I wasn't about to let them off the hook. I wasn't playing games anymore. This was their chance to prove they understood the depth of what they'd done, and I wasn't going to make it easy for them. Finally, my mom called me. She didn't ask to meet up, just asked for a phone conversation. I could tell by the way her voice shook that they'd been discussing it for a while. We've thought about it, Alex, she said. We understand what you want. We're willing to make things right. We'll do it. I felt a cold satisfaction wash over me. They didn't get to just walk in, apologize, and assume everything would be fine. They had to show me they were truly sorry. They had to prove they could own up to their mistakes in the most public way possible. I didn't let her off easy. I want it on social media. I want it public. You'll write a full post on whatever you use. You'll tell the world what you did. Tell them how you believed a lie and kicked your son out. Tell them how you turned your back on me when I was struggling. Make sure everyone sees it. There was a long pause on the other end of the line. I could almost hear her trying to collect herself, probably wanting to negotiate. But I wasn't negotiating anymore. I want everyone to know exactly what happened. I want the people who followed your lies to see it. I want my friends, your friends, and our extended family to know how you turned your back on me. My mom sighed, the sound of defeat heavy in her voice. All right, Alex. We'll do it. We'll tell everyone the truth. But after this, after all of this, will you at least try to move forward? I didn't answer immediately. Instead, I took a deep breath, reminding myself of everything they had put me through. The years of silence. The pain. The humiliation. They hadn't changed that much. No. I finally said, my voice steady and cold. Once you do this, I'll consider it. But until then, I'm cutting contact with you. She was silent again, and for the first time, I realized how much my words were affecting her. She didn't say anything for a while. Then, very quietly, she muttered, I understand. I didn't respond. I knew there was no point. It was time for them to face the consequences. A few days later, my parents did what I'd asked. They posted on their social media accounts, publicly and with no room for ambiguity. My mom wrote a long post with a picture of me from when I was younger, right before everything fell apart. In the post, she wrote how they had kicked me out after believing a lie my sister told. She admitted how they had wrongly sided with her, even though they knew deep down something didn't feel right. She apologized to me for turning their backs on me, for not being the parents I deserved. She expressed regret for the pain they had caused and how they now understood the gravity of the situation. My dad posted a similar message, though it was shorter and less emotional. He apologized for not listening to me and for believing the worst in me without ever giving me the benefit of the doubt. He admitted that he had been wrong, and while it was too late to undo the damage, he hoped that somehow, some way, I would forgive them. The posts were there. out in the open for everyone to see. The people who had sided with my parents during the whole mess saw it. The people who judged me without ever asking my side of the story. They saw the truth for the first time. But did that make things better? Not for me. I knew my parents were only doing this because of my success. I could tell from the tone of their messages that they didn't fully understand why I was still so hurt, so cold toward them. They had apologized, yes, but I knew the apology wasn't truly for me. It was for them. They wanted to ease their own guilt, and they thought this would fix everything. But I couldn't be fooled anymore. I never responded to the posts. I didn't comment, didn't message them privately. I knew that anything more would just be me giving in. The truth was, I didn't need them anymore. I had built a life for myself, one without them in it. I had succeeded, I had moved on, and I had made peace with the fact that some relationships were better left in the past. When I saw the notifications that my parents had tagged me in their posts, I just ignored them. I didn't need them to validate me. I had done everything I needed to do. I had proven I could make it without them. And that was enough. A couple of weeks went by with no contact. Eventually, I got a message from my mom. Just a simple text saying, "We miss you." But by then, the damage was done. I couldn't unsee the years of neglect, the hurt they caused me. I couldn't forget how easily they had cast me aside for a lie. I didn't respond. And that was the end of it. So, Reddit, I know I may sound harsh, but do you think I did the right thing? I've had people tell me that I should have forgiven them, that family is everything, but I can't shake the feeling that they only came back because they saw my success. They didn't care about me back then, so why should I care about them now? I've moved on. But am I wrong for holding on to that anger? Let me know your thoughts.